Time to check in with CJAD legal contributor. That is Chris Dimakos. And we're going to talk about a couple of stories today. There's a lot going on in terms of employment, but I want to start off with this one, Chris. So Amazon is taking a different approach, and we all know about AI and the fact that jobs may, end up being lost because of it. But their approach is now to let their employees, the ones who are going to be let go, know ahead of time that they're going to lose their jobs in the near future because AI will take their place, while at the same time, if I understand this right, letting those same employees know you might want to get more familiar with AI. So what's this about?
Right. So on the one hand, you look at it at face value, and Amazon's trying to be proactive here, letting everyone know that there's changes going to come. We're not sure exactly who and when, but they're coming. And they're coming because AI is starting to take over a lot of the responsibilities, and they want to become more efficient, and they want to become more lean as a company. But that being said, it's a new approach. Companies historically don't usually tell employees that they're going to get fired at a later date to be determined. They usually mention, hey, we're letting go of this many employees on this date, and this is the reason. But that being said, it's a new approach in the sense that Amazon's trying to set the narrative for these fires before it ever gets debated, by saying you're going to be let go because of AI. You should familiarize yourself with AI, because if you don't, you're going to be left out of a job. And they're basically trying to set the table for an argument that said, we let you go for cause, right? In law, we have you're let go with cause or without cause. And if it's without cause, there was no legal grounds to let someone go. But if you have cause, such as what Amazon's trying to put forth as a reason, well, then you did have grounds to let someone go, and your compensation for during that time is much reduced because of that. So I find it's a really great strategy on Amazon's part if they're trying to mitigate how much these fires are going to cost them, by already setting the table and saying, hey, guys, this is what's going to happen in the near future. We're giving you notice that it's going to happen, without actually saying, here's what it is, here's when you're being let go. So it's almost as if they're trying to beat you to the punch and trying to argue why this is going to happen by saying, here are the reasons going forward why this is going to happen. So it's a strategic move on Amazon's part. Obviously, the employees in question are going to have to evaluate why they got let go and if that's the very reason why they did get let go. But there's no question that companies are starting to be thinking out of the box when it comes to letting go of a major part of their workforce, because they want to mitigate how much that can cost.
I was going to say, so with respect to how much it's going to cost, I mean, the legal ramifications here, is this part of the rationale, do you think, why Amazon does this? Because if you give someone advance notice, you can't say where they were just let go necessarily without cause. I mean, I don't know. Is that the legal challenge here?
Right, and that's exactly so. I don't know for certain what was talked about in those boardrooms, but I can tell you that the outcome as a result of doing this can have serious, I wouldn't call it savings, but lowering the risk, right, let's just say, of exposure to some of these suits by setting the table and putting the narrative there before people even start questioning why this is happening.
Let me move on to another part of the story. I find this fascinating. I think back to when we were talking about this, of course, just after the pandemic. There's a new survey, shows for the first time in its history, the group conducting this, Randstad, shows that salary no longer tops the requirement for a job as far as employees are concerned. They're looking instead to find a company with, quote, community feeling and aligned values, unquote. Look, I know we talked a lot about, as I said, work-life balance after the pandemic. This seems to be a new twist.
It does. And when people are looking for jobs and they're no longer looking at salary as the number one reason, because that's always been the number one. You need to be able to pay your bills, and based on what your lifestyle is and what your family has to undertake as expenses, salary is pretty high up there. But I have a feeling that some of these surveys now are starting to consider a younger workforce. They're starting to consider new employees entering the workforce, and some of their values might not be as traditional and as aligned as we've seen over the last couple of years. That could be due to home ownership or starting a family later, whatever the case may be. But that being said, what they're looking for now is they're looking for a place that doesn't feel like a job. They're looking for a place where they want to go every day, where they feel motivated to go, where they like the people that they work with, where they feel that there's a long tenure there, where there's opportunity to grow. So they're looking at their job much differently than they did in the past. And companies now that are looking to hire some of this talent are starting to say, hey, maybe we don't have to pay the most to get the best talent. Maybe we just have to provide a product that's different, that people like and enjoy, and that'll end up saving us some money. So a lot of movement when it comes to employment, when you consider the unemployment rate in Canada, and you see how much volatility there is out there, there's a lot of change happening. And I think if you are an employee right now and you have a job that you like, or if you're looking for something new, you got to factor these things in. You know, you got to say, well, companies now are starting to look at different types of advantages and different types of benefits, not just money. So you gotta have that, you know, in the background when you're considering moving to a new job.
I would wonder at the same time, though, if that's sort of, you know, what employees are looking for. I almost get the impression that, you know, okay, you find that, or you think you found it, you go to your job, and it would seem to me you discover, guess what, it's not what I thought it was going to be. And I imagine employees staying shorter and shorter at these kinds of jobs.
They do, and you know, not to have a segue here, but the other massive story coming out of Robert Half is that these hiring managers, the people entrusted with hiring employees, are now taking 94% of the time longer because the companies are not happy with the fact that, hey, if we hire somebody and they end up leaving in 6 months, that costs the company a lot of money in investing in that employee, and the turnover rate is not good at all. So they're getting a lot of pressure now to hire the right employee, and they're taking a lot more time, and they're vetting as much as they can, because at the end, if they can't produce and they can't hire the right employees, it's their job on the line. So, you know, that works well with your question. And you just ask, you know, what about an employee that finds out that they're not happy with it? That happens a lot, especially when it's not about salary. You know, if it's about salary, it's black and white. You get a job, you're happy with what you're getting paid. You're willing to put up with what's the negative aspect of your job because the money's good. I pay my bills. I'm fine here. But if that's not what you're looking for, if you're looking for other things, you know, and they don't work out, well, then there's nothing keeping you there, you know, and you can leave and look for another job, and the company obviously loses if that's the case.
Yeah, doesn't augur well for the employment market the way we're making it sound here. All right. Chris, I thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.